Alright, welcome back everybody. This time I'm going to go over buying cards and buildings and reinforcing walls. So right here what I have is I have our normal player's hand. So this is my starting walls that the zombies will eventually start attacking. And I already drew out my 5 cards. So normally you draw 5 cards every hand. I have my 5 cards already laid out. And since I go first, there's no zombies or anything interesting to shoot at. I just have money to spend. So I have $2, $2, $2, $1, and $1 here. So I have $8 total that I can go and spend. On the top right hand corner of every card in the loot piles right here is the cost of the card. So I have $8 right now, and I'm going to go ahead and buy rubbish for 1. That leaves me $7. Once I buy a card, I want to go ahead and flip the card underneath it over. As I may potentially want to buy that later. But for now I'm going to buy a couple more of these rubbish cards. So I am currently up to $3 out of my 8. Okay? And then I'm going to buy this one right here for 3. So I've spent $6 so far, and I'm just going to go ahead and I have $2 left. I'm going to go ahead and buy this remaining scrap. Okay, so I bought a lot of scrap. So the interesting thing about scrap cards is they do not go into your deck. So instead I will have like my personal scrap pile, and later on, or even this turn if I want to, I can use this scrap to do one of two things. I can either reinforce my walls. So right now it's a little hard to see in the video. This wall is strength 6. I can actually take and increase it by 1, so this wall is strength 7. Now I wouldn't do this now because there's no zombies attacking it and I'm not really in any kind of danger. So, but I could save this pile for later and then reinforce it when I need to during the game. Now the other part about scrap is I can actually use it to buy buildings, which are these 4 over here. Okay, and the cost is usually indicated up here in the top right corner. So this one costs $4, or 4 scrap, sorry, 4 scrap, 3 scrap, and then this one has an asterisk here, which means I have to look in here because depending on how much scrap I put into it, I get different abilities. Okay, so this is kind of an upgradable card. I can start at the low end, which is 2 scrap, and I can upgrade it all the way to 4 scrap, and I get different abilities for each one. Okay. So normally I buy stuff in the middle with my dollars that comes from my hand, and I buy buildings with scrap. So scrap is like another resource, but you have to get it out of the loot piles. Okay, so right now you can't see it, but basically I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 scrap, okay, that I bought, which allows me to do quite a bit, right? So if you look, I can actually build 2 buildings. So I could build, say, the secret tunnel, which is 4, and what I do is I would take my 4 scrap required for that building, put it underneath, and now I can build it on my wall. I can have 1 building per wall. Okay, so I still have room for another building. Okay, so if I flip this over, because I always want to have 4 choices out here, I can decide what I want to build for the second one. Do I have enough? I have 3, and it just so happens that the Genome Lab costs 3 scrap. So I'm going to go ahead and build another building right away. Now, you'll notice that I bought scrap and then used it to build all in the same turn. That's totally legal. You can do as much as you can in one turn, essentially. Now, the one thing that you can't do is you can't use the abilities of the buildings right away. You actually have to wait 1 turn. So we just built these, so next turn when it comes around I can actually use these abilities. And the way that the buildings work are, normally I have a draw pile and I draw cards every turn, and so as my pile gets bigger, you know, I get access to some of my cards. The difference with the buildings is I get these every turn and I get to use it once per turn. Okay? So I get this special ability once per turn. I don't have to draw it or anything like that. So that's what's really nice about having buildings. Now, your next question is going to be, can I build more than 2 buildings? Yes, I can. So I'm going to just make up another scenario. Let's say I have a little bit more money and I buy some more scrap. So this is a 2 scrap here, and this is a 3 scrap here, and I'm going to go ahead and flip these over just because I've been doing it all along anyway. And now I can buy another building that costs 3, I have 5 scrap, but there's a problem here. A building can only go on a wall, alright? So I can take the 3 scrap that I have here and I can build this with it, and then I use the 2 scrap to build another wall with. So there you go. I need enough scrap to build a building with, plus I need at least a 1 scrap wall to put it behind. It's not very strong. You can always reinforce it later, or you can decide not to put that many zombies on it, which we'll talk about in another tutorial video. So that's how you would actually add more buildings to your empire and expand your walls. So you're basically building your fort or your base larger. Okay? Now, you can't just build a wall. So let's say I didn't build this, but I have this scrap here. I can't just build another wall. I actually have to have a reason for building another wall, right? So I actually have to have a building to put behind the wall. Okay? So let's say, for example, I only have, I have these cards right now. So I have 1 wall and another wall with a building behind it. If I want to, I can't go build another wall yet because I haven't fully filled this one up yet. Okay? So if I buy a building, the first thing I have to do is put it on this wall because I haven't used it yet. Once I put it there, then later on I can pay the scrap for a building plus another wall. Okay? So you can only expand out once you've filled up your first 2 walls. And that is pretty much it for scrap and buildings. And like I said, you actually don't put the scrap in your hand. It's a separate resource, and it goes over here in your personal scrap pile, and later in the game you can actually use it to reinforce walls. You can hold on to it, reinforce walls. You can save up for bigger buildings later on if you want to. So this does not go in your discard pile or your hand, which is a little bit different than most deck builders. Okay, and that's all I wanted to cover for this tutorial. Stay tuned for the other ones.